This guy is a friend of mine who joined me at this year's Sim Racing Expo, and he tasked me to make a sim racing room tour when I'd reach 500 subscribers. And here we are, I suppose, a little late, but anyways, let's just go and have a look around, shall we? Since a full-blown sim rig takes quite a bit of space, I had to leave my tiny little office and move to the only place left in the house,
the basement.
So you could consider it an actual man cave down here. The room itself needed to serve multiple purposes at once, which still is quite the challenge to achieve. Workout area, office, general gaming, sim racing, and storage, unfortunately. Starting with the sim rig itself, the chassis is a GT Omega Prime aluminum profile rig, including the triple monitor stand. There is actually nothing groundbreaking here, nor does this rig look super duper fancy, but considering the price, I think this rig is an extremely good value for money. I think I'll cover my thoughts probably anytime soon in a separate review about it. Before I've had this rig, I was using the Apex wheel stand, also from GT Omega, and the RS6 seat actually made it from the wheel stand onto the new rig. For a reclining seat, I gotta say it's pretty comfy and offers just about enough support and rigidity, but I always fancy the bucket seat to have that little bit of extra support in the back, so maybe I'll switch it out as well sometime in the future. In case you're interested in any products mentioned throughout the video, I'll put as many links as possible in the description below. None of these are affiliate links, I just didn't have the time to sort out how that goes. But if you want to support me, I'd be happy if you'd leave a like, and if you want to see more of my upcoming content, I'm thankful for every single subscriber. Moving on, I've got a Thrustmaster TSS sequential shifter, which can be used as a handbrake as well. This thing was actually one of the first pieces of equipment after having my first wheelbase, and it's still running strong. I personally wouldn't recommend using it as a handbrake due to the very linear travel, but as a shifter it works pretty great. It definitely can take quite a beating and is a very solid product overall. Another very simple yet effective tool is the Moza HBP handbrake. I'm not doing rally racing that much these days, but when I've got an itch to do so, it's just a blast to use both of these together. It's a bit wobbly at times, and there are handbrakes that are way more rigid, but for my usage, this thing gets the job done perfectly fine. The main components for my sim racing adventures are accompanied by my trusty SimiCube 2 Pro wheelbase, and as a main wheel, I'm currently using the SimMagic GT Neo. Despite its technical age, the SimiCube 2 Pro is still one of the best and most reliable wheelbases you can get these days, and as for the GT Neo, there are definitely way more comfy wheels out there that use higher quality materials, but considering the price, the GT Neo is so well packed with features and buttons that I'd still wholeheartedly recommend it to anyone who doesn't want to break the bank. I've reviewed both of these separately on my channel if you want to have a more in-depth look into these products. Next up is an Elgato Stream Deck, which acts as a button box. Not much more to say here. It's an absolutely lovely little device with so many features, and I haven't even scratched the surface of using it to its full extent, but I simply didn't have the time to set it up further yet. It's incredibly helpful for pit stops and in-car adjustments with endless customizability options. My VRS pedals were the very first product that I've reviewed on this channel about a year ago. I've owned them for 2 years now, and still, they haven't failed anything to this day. Such a well-made product. I've gone through many iterations regarding the brake travel, the positioning, and all that, but overall, I'm pretty happy to have them on my rig. Triple AOC monitors, nothing crazy, 27-inch, 1440p, 155 Hz, badly aligned with gaps since setting up triples is a nightmare. I think I'll get some Vario VESA mounts to get them aligned soon to save me some headaches. The triple screen stand itself is a really solid solution, which also helps keeping the cables aligned, and it comes in handy for additional attachments, such as the swivel arm that I really love. Mainly I use it for repositioning my microphone. This thing was like 20 euros on Etsy or something like that. I think these attachments are even less when they're not coated, but I wanted everything to match the rig. And so I gotta say it's very well invested money. As for the microphone itself, I can easily dismount it and place it somewhere else on my rig or desk whenever I need it, and the rotating arm is mega useful. Regarding the sound quality, well, that's up for you to decide whether it's good or not. These 3D printed attachments over here were gifted to me by a good friend of mine, and they come in super handy for my mobile phone, as well as a pair of gloves that can be placed on top of them. As far as I know, you can get these on Etsy as well. Just look for something like sim racing gadgets and you'll find similar results in no time. As I've mentioned in the beginning, the whole setup is multi-purpose, and since it's a single computer solution, the heart of it all is placed right in the center. The computer itself is nothing really crazy. I've bought it in 2018 and upgraded it over time whenever it was necessary. It's powered by an older i7, 32 gigs of RAM and a 4070 Ti Super. It still works like a charm and runs everything smoothly, but most likely I'm gonna upgrade the CPU this year, including the mainboard. Next up, this little IKEA table is probably the most useful thing in this whole space. My wireless keyboard rests on it when it's not in use. I can place stuff on it next to me. It's super light but solid due to its metal construction, and sometimes it even helps with filming. I've shot my SimiCube 2 close-up shots entirely on this little table. And in fact, I'm actually sitting on it right now. Next to the rig is my workspace where I do all the video and photo editing, scripting, and mandatory stuff like tax declarations, which is probably my favorite task. Not. What I don't like about it is the actual desk plate. I think I'm gonna swap it with some actual wood to have just a bit more light in this dark, gritty gaming cave down here. Besides, I still do regular gaming occasionally here, but mostly it's sim racing games these days. The thing is, I always need to play games that are heavily demanding, otherwise I'm bored pretty quickly. Dang. I've always liked to play really tasking games like all of the From Software titles, like Bloodborne, Dark Souls, Elden Ring, you name it. Maybe this is why sim racing ticks so many boxes for me. Recently, I picked up Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, which is even better than the first one, so if you're into a great role-playing challenge, give it a try. And occasionally, I'm having a gaming session with friends down here, playing good old Flat Out 2, which is a load of fun. On the boards above, I've got all of my gloves that I use for sim racing. Some of them are more often used than others, of course, and I'm always wearing gloves and shoes when racing. For me personally, it just doesn't work without them. This is a very basic but useful round wheel rim for oval and rally racing, which I use every now and then. You know, no buttons, just a very sturdy and simple round wheel rim. This doesn't cost a fortune, and as long as you have a separate shifter, it's an absolute blast to use because it's so purist. Up here is also my super useful tiny tripod, which enables me to get so many creative shots in this very sort of limited environment. I absolutely love this thing. I have a lot of other tripods, light stands, and other accessories that I use for filming all of my shots, but due to height limitation, I'm just using a single light source with a diffuser and occasionally a reflector if needed. And lastly, there's some utility storage, a bit of racing related art, like this beautiful rally calendar that a friend of mine gifted to me, and these two made out of metal pictures by Displate, and, well, some other obscurities that somehow made it into this room. Next to all of this is our workout area. A lot of time and thought went to making the most out of the least amount of space. And I gotta say that I'm quite happy how it turned out. All of it gets used regularly, and to a certain degree the gain in fitness even supports sim racing as well, because it's a physically demanding hobby where you're seated all the time. I definitely need all of this stuff to let off steam, otherwise I just go crazy. And despite all of this looking nice and somewhat fancy, to me this room is still a huge construction site and far from being done. The off-camera stuff that you don't get to see in my videos drives me nuts, to be honest. Directly next to my rig is this absolutely chaotic mess of a shelf. One thing for 2025 will be to get a solution that's enclosed and looks a little cleaner at least. And then there's cable management. Guys, sim racing and cable management, you exactly know what I'm talking about, right? It's just a nightmare. Also, this is definitely something to consider finishing this year, but maybe I'll procrastinate. I don't know yet. I don't know. In a summary, I hate the radiator next to me. I hate having so little natural light, even though it's a godsend for filmmaking, and I hate everything that's not done yet. I guess we've all been there, right? But hey, overall, I'm really not complaining. I'm more than thankful for having a space such as this, and I love spending my time down here. Looking at how I started my sim racing journey and comparing it to where I'm at now, this doesn't look too bad, I guess, but I'll leave the sim racing journey for another video. If you guys have any ideas on what I could add to the room, or if you have any questions whatsoever, just drop me a comment, I'd be happy to answer. And as always guys, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks to each and every one of you who took part in the 500 subs journey, and if you haven't already, drop me a like and subscribe so you'll see more of this content in the near future. Thanks for watching, much love, see you soon.